So we're in a series on learning from the masters. We began on Easter Sunday, learning from the master teacher, Jesus Christ. Last Sunday, we took a look at the teacher, the Buddha. Who do you think we're going to look at today? Just by the song. Gandhi, that's right. Gandhi, Mahatma Gandhi. So many stories about him, his life, his teaching, his presence, what he accomplished. So many amazing words and ideas that he shared and changes that he made. And so it was kind of hard to figure out how to put my arms around what I wanted to share about him today that can help us in us living the lives that we're living, dealing with whatever we might be working through or toward personally, and whatever it is that we are holding for our human family, for our larger world. And so I want to begin with one of the stories in his life that just really moves me. And it's a story of a mother who came to him asking him for help with her son. And the help that she wanted Mahatma Gandhi to say to her son, "You need to stop eating sugar." Mom was worried about the kid eating too much sugar. And so Gandhi said, "Come back in a couple of weeks." And so the mom and the son left, and a few weeks later they came back, and mom said, please tell him to stop eating sugar. And so Gandhi did. He said, "You need to stop eating sugar." And the mom said, "Well, why couldn't you have told us that 2 weeks ago? Why couldn't you have told us then?" And you may or may not know his answer. His answer was, "Because I was still eating sugar." Yeah, because I was still eating sugar. We all have sugar moments in our lives. Unity has 5 simple, basic principles, and our 5th principle has to do with the living of our faith, of learning the principles and the practices, but taking them from our head into our heart, and then with our feet and our hands, living them in our day-to-day life. Which means that there are moments that we need to take the high spiritual ideas that we have and not just hold them, in mind, but actually act upon them. That there are sugar moments for each of us where we're called to put feet beneath our prayers. I want to share a little bit about Gandhi's journey. And, like many of us, I think, who find our way into unity or metaphysics or new thought, we find our way here because there's something that kind of jolts us awake. Maybe there's something that's not quite working in our lives and we long for a change. But there's something that causes us to have that moment where we wake up. And Gandhi had a certain waking up moment. It happened in 1893. His awakening came as a result of having been thrown off a train in South Africa when he had been sitting in the whites-only car. And he was thrown off the train because he was not white. He was brown. And he was thrown off the train, and he realized in that moment, he had been a lawyer, he had realized in that moment that the only way he was going to help bring about change in the world was not through force and not through hate, but through love. Through love. And so for the next 50 years of his life, he practiced satyagraha, which is the understanding of high truth, and ahimsa, which is the practice of nonviolence. And that in those practices, in the practice of truth and in the practice of nonviolence, he hoped to awaken the conscience of the people that he served and the people that were oppressing the people of India. The name Mahatma is not his first name. Mahatma was an honorific given to him that means great soul. Isn't that beautiful? Great soul, Mahatma, great soul. I imagine that there's a part in each and every one of us that would like to be like that, to be that great soul. And maybe not on a world platform, but to be that great soul in our families, to be that great soul in our communities. to be that great soul in our business relationships, to be that divine expression. I want to share with you a few of Gandhi's core teachings, what I take away from my study of Gandhi. Some core teachings. The first is this. It's the teaching of Satya, which is a teaching of truth is God. Truth is God. Say that with me. Truth is God. Gandhi didn't have a concept of an anthropomorphic God, a God that looks like a person with long, flowing robes and beards and sits somewhere in space and time in the heavens. He had more of a sense of an omnipresent force for good. And that force for good he taught to be truth. And it is why he said truth is God. Kind of like unity's first principle. There's one presence and one power in the universe. That presence and power, some call God, but it's a presence and power of truth, the presence and power of life. And it is equally present everywhere, every place, in every person, and in every circumstance. And so in this idea of truth as God, or truth is God, when Gandhi did his work to try to free the Indian people from the British Empire, he did not focus on the power and the might of the British Empire. He didn't focus on the military strength of the British Empire or the vastness of the British Empire. He focused instead on human dignity. On human dignity. I titled this lesson Soul Force because I think that that's really what Mahatma Gandhi embodied, was the force of the soul. And this idea of truth is God is the idea that the force of the soul can be so great that it can inspire and awaken the higher conscience of even the oppressor. You may remember, if you ever studied or read books about Gandhi, or if you watch the movies or documentaries about him, that he was committed that not only would the British leave India and India would be free, but do you recall or did you know that he wanted the British to leave as friends? Take that in for a moment. Take that in for a moment. Something just crossed my mind on a very human level. Think about how many relationships break up, how many marriages end in divorce. And no judgment there, but how many end in divorce? And can you imagine being able to hold that soul force energy, that Gandhi kind of energy, that your ex would leave as a friend? Breathe into that for a moment. For some, that's an easy thing to hold and to imagine. And for others, that's really difficult. But you know, on the principles of unity, however we end a relationship, if we do not clean it up, guess what happens? I think you know. If we do not clean it up, we get to repeat it in a different form, but the same essential experience or the same essential message until we get it, until we learn it. Gandhi was committed to this idea of truth is God, that by embodying soul force, by being as bright and pure and good a human as he could be, that would somehow eventually, and it did, break through the rigidity, the harshness, the cruelty, the unfairness, the unjustness of the British oppressor. Powerful concept, yes? Powerful concept. What does that mean for us? I think it has to do with how we choose to look at the big, difficult things in our lives, the things that seem to be holding us down or holding us hostage. Gandhi didn't look at the strength and the might of the British Empire. He looked at the possibility, the dignity within every person, including the oppressor. When we are looking at the mountains of difficulties that we might be facing individually or collectively, we can't be held hostage to the appearance of the problem. We have to lift our vision up, extend our vision outward to see above and beyond the problem. Doesn't mean we sweep the problem under the carpet. It doesn't mean we don't name what the problem is. Gandhi certainly named what the problems were, but not to be held hostage to them. Does that make sense? To know that even as that thing exists, it does not exist in isolation. It exists with a vastness around it. It's like if I hold a big piece of white poster board in front of you with a big black dot in the center of it, and I ask you what you see. Most people will respond and say what? I see the black dot. And then when you press them and you say, do you see anything else? They'll look. No, I see the black dot. And you press them a little bit further, and eventually someone will say, I see the white poster. The black dot in this analogy of Gandhi would have been to focus on the strength and the might of the British Empire. The white poster board was to focus on the human dignity within everyone that he met, whether it was the King of England or the oppressor or anyone. For us, it is to know whatever that black dot is for us, and it may be significant, and it may be scary, and it may be where you have no idea how to break through it yet. It's never, ever, ever, ever to forget that it lies within something much bigger, much vaster, full of potential, because God is there too. And by lifting our vision that way, we free up the energy to figure out how to solve whatever the problem is that is before us. Another core teaching of Gandhi's has to do with this idea of flow, or this idea of how you look at something, There was a story of him boarding a train, and as he was boarding the train, he lost one of his shoes. It came off as he was boarding the train in a hurry, and as soon as he got on the train, he threw the other shoe out the window. Do you remember that, or did you ever know? Why did he do that? He did that so that the person that found the one shoe would actually find two. That's amazing to me, to think that quickly. I think comes from a life of cultivating compassion. It's so easy, I think, it's true for me, look at these great stories of somebody like Mahatma Gandhi and say, oh, I can't do that. Well, how do we know what we can and can't do? But what I do know is that if we are willing to start with who we are, how we are right now, and the opportunities before us right now, that's all that's required of any one of us. And we will have our own sugar moments or our own shoe moments where suddenly, because we've been cultivating this attitude of compassion and kindness and mindfulness, we will catch those opportunities and we will rise to a bit of that Mahatma energy, that great soul energy. You know, looking at it through the lens of prosperity or abundance teachings, we could say that Gandhi didn't pay attention to what he had lost. He paid attention to what he had left to give. And what a beautiful, inspiring message that is for every one of us. Another core teaching of his was the idea of radical simplicity. Radical simplicity. There are certain Gandhi sayings that probably most of us know, even if we don't know that they were from him. He talked about there being enough in the world to meet everyone's need, but not everyone's greed. To meet everyone's need, but not everyone's greed. There's a story of him being invited to a tea with the King of England. And one of the things that Gandhi seemed to continue to do, no matter how great his message and his impact in the world was becoming, he continued to dress in the common garb for an Indian man, and that was to wear that loincloth and a shawl. And he greeted the king, or he met the King of England dressed like that. And he was then asked, "Didn't you think you were somewhat underdressed?" You know, picture the King of England and picture this tiny little man dressed in a loincloth. And his answer was, "I don't think so. I think the king had enough clothes on for both of us." You know, the fact that we chuckle, it was another way that I think he was able to break through some of the ways that people were, to break through with humor. No, I think the king was wearing enough clothes for both of us. Another way of, I think, speaking to the idea of simplicity, speaking to the idea that we are not the things that we wear or the things that we own or the accolades that we receive. We are an expression of God. We are first and foremost a spiritual being, no matter what we are wearing, no matter what credentials we have, no matter how much wealth we have. We are not those things. We are something far more important than that. We are divine beings. We can ask of ourselves, you know, where is any excess baggage that I am holding on to? Where can I simplify? Not necessarily suggesting we run around in a loincloth, but where can we simplify? Could it be in our consumption? Could it be in the way we move in the world? Could we really believe that exactly as we are right now, we are enough? We are enough. Do you know how many people in the world hunger to know that and believe that about themselves? That exactly as they are in this moment, they are enough. You are enough. I am enough. Say that quietly. I am enough. Say it again. I am enough. Again. I am enough. I am enough. When we live out of that consciousness that we are, as we are right now, enough, we free ourselves and we heal ourselves. And when we are free and when we are healed, or at least more healed, we are far better equipped to live life with dignity and honesty and kindness and generosity and compassion and all those beautiful qualities that I think deep inside we all strive to express more of. It's when we don't feel enough. It's when we feel broken and shattered inside that we act less than the divine beings that we are. There's a saying that only healed people heal people, unhealed people hurt people. Another core teaching of Gandhi's was humility. Not only did he continue to wear the traditional, simple, common garb of a loincloth, whenever he traveled, even when he had really reached world-famous stature, if you will, he always traveled third class. He always traveled in the lowest class of the train. I've been on some of the trains in India, and let me tell you, the first class trains in India are nothing like even the lowest class trains that we have here. At least they weren't in 1999. But he always traveled the lowest, most crowded, simplistic class of Indian trains. Crowded, smelly, dirty, filled with other animals and people. And when asked why a person of his stature did he travel third class, do you know what his answer was? Because there isn't a fourth class. What was he trying to say again there? We chuckle, and I'm glad that we do because it breaks through some of our stereotypes, right? He said, because there's not a fourth class. He was trying to remain connected with the common people of India that he was trying to help. I think of Jesus' teaching when he said, it is not unless you have done it to the least of these that you did it to me. Said, when I was naked, when I was hungry, you clothed me, you fed me. The disciples said, we never saw you naked. We never saw you hungry. What are you talking about? Paraphrasing here. He said, whenever you did it to the least of these, you did it to me. It's like the idea, I'm traveling third class because there's not fourth class. Am I saying don't book a first class ticket somewhere? I'm not saying anything like that. But I'm saying that each of us, as much as we have grown spiritually, we can continue to grow spiritually. And we can continue to grow into the greatness of our own souls, recognizing our oneness with each other. And that the way that we live our lives individually really matters. Not just the people that we live with, but matters to the far-reaching impacts in our world as well. 2 more thoughts I want to share with you. Core teaching comes from Gandhi's continued practice of meditation and prayer and silence. You may recall having seen images of this. In fact, I tried to go online to see if there were any stats on the figures. I believe some of his personal items had been auctioned off years ago. And at one time, not one time, but throughout his teaching life, his leadership life, he could be found spending several hours a day at a very basic spinning wheel, spinning cotton. And when asked why, he talked about it being like a moving meditation for him, that it kept him more centered and more calm. And when I think about that, I think that gives me great hope and inspiration, that somebody such as Mahatma Gandhi needed something that helped him to stay more centered and calm, because I know I need tools and practices. Mine's not a spinning wheel, but mine are other tools and practices to help me stay a little more calm, a little more centered in the middle of chaos or disruption, so that whatever is my work to do or my conversations to have or my decisions to make, that I can make them from a more calm, open-hearted, centered place. I think another teaching of his in the time he spent with his spinning wheel in meditation was another way of saying that we don't have to go somewhere else to meditate or to feel close to God, that we can do it right in the dailiness of our own lives. I forget who wrote the book or expressed the idea about before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. Meaning that the life things that we do often remain the same, even after we've had those breakthrough moments of awakening and spiritual understanding. We're still living the same life that we have, more than likely, but we're living it from a different place of understanding. A different place of understanding. He knew that even in spinning the fiber into cotton, which was then sold or used, he was doing work, but he was also meditating while he was doing it. And then, of course, the very, very last teaching is the one that he's probably best known for, and that is his words, to be the change we wish to see in the world. If we wish to see a more loving and kind world, then we need to be more loving and kind ourselves. Not to say we're not already loving and kind. It's the idea of building upon the good works that we're already doing. If we want to see a more peaceful world or a more just world, then we have to be that ourselves. Our very life is the laboratory in which we practice these things. We might come to church, or we might go to a retreat, or we might go away for a while to be strengthened in our teaching and practice. But we do that so that then we can go into the nitty-gritty of our lives with the people that we associate with, the ones we love and the ones that feel like sandpaper to our souls, in the places that we work, in the neighborhoods that we serve, to be the light, to be the change. Namaste.